Hey, welcome to part 2 and the conclusion of the Gig Life podcast, Guitar Speak podcast, Guitarist Roundtable. I'm your host, Stevie Taylor. I hope you enjoyed part 1. If you haven't heard it, go back and check it out. It's pretty cool. In part 2 here, the guys expand a bit more on how they're developing their business. We talk about gear, the whole analog versus digital debate, axe effects, amp modeling versus tube, etc. Fender Stratocasters versus boutique guitars, favourite rig, desert island rig, guitar techs, young players who are inspiring, playing with a drummer, and a few other listener questions, as well as much more. So once again, many thanks to Pete Northcote, Chris Camzellis, Daniel March, Matt Wakeling of the Guitar Speak podcast, Ben Rogers and Mark Malou for joining me on this Guitarist Roundtable. It's been a real blast. So ladies and gentlemen, here it is, part 2 of the Gig Life podcast, Guitar Speak podcast, Guitarist Roundtable. Cheers. This next question's yours, Matt.
Is it?
Yep.
What if I ask it?
You can.
Gear. Oh, man.
No, we missed one.
No. Yes.
Yeah.
That was a good question too. How have you
Because
built...
when we talk about gear, that's when I go for a walk.
What strings do you use?
I like to use a drum on my guitar.
Yeah, nice. Drumsticks work.
We've kind of touched on this. How have you built your business? But is there anything to add on that? Like the idea that I'm the only one with a day job. How I built my business, I went and did a music degree and became a school teacher. And I
went and didn't finish my music degree. I left. I left on my last exam. I went to my bass teacher, Erica Jai, who we were just talking about, and I was doing commutes 3 or 4 times a week between Canberra and Sydney because I was doing so many gigs. And I was working with Darren Percival. I just got a gig with Jade McRae. I think it was just as I was about to start working with like Guy Sebastian and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, I can't drive this 1982 Gemini back and forth from Sydney with a drum kit and a bass quad in it. It's just getting crazy. And he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I just want to play. And he's like, why are you here? And I was like, all right. And so I just left. Yeah. So, yeah, I fell. Come on, A&U, just give me like a, what is that thing they give
honorary.
To yeah. I want one of those.
Doctor of Rock.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all that paper doesn't mean anything in the end, does it?
And that's what I mean. And that's what my teacher said. He goes, man,
Yeah.
Eric, I'm pretty sure Eric, he moved to Australia and had to do a diploma of teaching so he could teach at the ANU. I'm like, man, that's ridiculous. Yeah. You're incredible.
That's like Jim Kelly had to do the same thing.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
Oh, yeah. Crazy. Madness.
Yeah.
Business. Well, I've been really, really lucky with my business because, like doing so many sessions, and it was at the stage where I was doing, 3 to 10 a day. So it was incredible. It was studio hopping, and I had a full-time employee that would lug my gears around and change my strings and drive me to and from gigs. So it was a real business for me. So, and I had him for like 5 years. And before that, I was doing it all myself, like all day. And I remember we were starting sessions before mobile phones came in, just when answering machines kind of started. So I've kind of...
did you have like a message service like they had?
No, we had it in those days. We had an answering machine, but you would drive to your session and come home and there'd be a message on your answering machine.
Oh, right.
And then eventually you got these answering machines that had a beeper, so you could call from any phone and you could beep into it and it would play back your messages.
Yeah, right.
Right? So when mobile phones came in, it was like, whoa, It was a trip. But business for me was always about putting all the money back into my business. It was always about buying great gear, buying the best gear, and being able to use it. And if there was something that needed a mandolin, I'd go and buy one and learn how to play it.
Right.
So everything went back, money went back into the business, and it kept kind of snowballing. And if there was a style that I didn't know how to play, I'd learn how to fake it. So I just kind of kept adding and adding and adding and adding. And then I got robbed 3 times in the space of 4 months, lost everything, no insurance. So totaled me. So that's when I moved into the city and started again. It was the best thing ever. But the business side of things, I've always had an accountant. I've always had a bookkeeper. And I'm pretty solid with everything that I do. So I collect emails. I have boxes for everything. And I'm not anal by any fucking means. I'm pretty loose, really. But I know that as far as business is concerned, you've got to have your shit together. Just, this is not just waiting for the phone to ring and then doing a gig. And there's certain things that I adhere to. I believe that email is professional. I kind of think Gadinsky doesn't book Madonna via Messenger or an app. It's like everything should be on email at least, and then there's a trail, and it should be, and it's easier to. So I have those sort of business things, like little things that work for me that I maintain.
Okay, so if I was to hit you up and say on Messenger, Pete, can you do a gig? You'll say, can you send me an email with the details?
That's the first thing that I say.
Yep.
Most people don't.
Yep.
But it can get really confusing. Like even the one that we had the
yeah.
There's so much for me to go. I had to go back and try and find. There's so many things that go on like that.
That's me and Mark's fault. We're children of the gift
cool.
generation.
I mean, that's fucking bread and
let me tell you one of the problems of that system, and it's happened to me, and it happens to a lot more people nowadays, is double bookings, because or not being booked enough. So I've rolled up to a couple of gigs whereby a band has been booked, where I say to the guy, make sure if you're booking me, make sure you send it via an email, and he sent me an email and forgotten about it, and then done everything on an app, and then the other band go rock up, and it's a mess because we have too many platforms to go on.
Yeah, right.
But I like to think that the emails is the answer to it all. But getting back to the business of how to maintain it, I think and I was never one of these people to get superannuation, but I was lucky enough when the 80s. My brother's friend started working with AMP, and she said, just put $100 away a month. And I started doing it. And then it snowballed, and then AMP listed, and I ended up with 1,000 shares for nothing. And then, so little things like that start to happen. As far as, like as you get older, you've got to kind of think of those things. And I never used to, but I was lucky that things happen. But again, business, you keep pouring back into your business. If I do a gig and it's worth $300 and my parking fine is $299, I'm winning. Do you know what I mean? Because I've gotten to do the gig and I've proved myself, and so I always think in that term rather than how much. I'm the sort of person that goes, what time do we start rather than what time do we finish? Yeah. So the business, it boils down to a number of things: how you present yourself, what you dress like, how you've learnt the material. It's all those things that are basic. And I think that I learnt that from looking at any major corporation. Like, I think, what does the foyer look like? How's the service? How's the staff? How's the follow-up? And so everything, I used to put out brochures to studios with all my gear, how much I charged, what the future was. I always had video recording, video sessions, and I would do stuff overseas. Nobody really took it on, but I had it one of the first, it was black and white video.
Right.
So I'd always try and find new things to keep it going. And it wasn't because I wanted more work, it's because I loved it. Anyway, I've spoken enough there.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's gold.
I think Pete's bang on. I think the whole preparation for business is to create those opportunities for work. If you're not putting in the hours, if you're not buying all the right gear, if you're not making yourself a desirable product, which is what we are, if we're playing guitar for people, then those opportunities don't come.
By the way, I've got a lot of gear at home from the 90s. Lexicons and rack stuff, switching systems, and anyone that wants to sort of go back.
Yeah, that lexicon sounds like a bar.
Yeah.
There'll be a link in the show notes.
Reverb shop.
I've got a Rockman. And I've got a Corgay too.
Oh,
I remember the A2, yeah.
See, I'm the bad end of the business.
That was good.
I'm the guy who didn't do any of the. I'm one of the many guys who got to a certain point and went, "You mean I have to do the last 10 years of tax?" I'm one of those guys who, I had many, because I just played gigs.
Yep.
And I like to drink and hang out and party, and so you just and that time where I guess I was the end of that era where you still carried around your paper invoice book and you'd get cash for a gig. So I remember when I first was living out of home, I had like an old Nescafe Blend 43 jar full of cash. And that's how I'd pay my rent, and my bills. And I'd like, yeah, here we go, let's go. And that's how you'd live. And then people are like, oh, yeah, sorry, man, this has to go into an account. And I was like, oh, what? I need an ABN. What? So
well, that's why I always had an accountant, because I didn't want to deal with that shit. It was too much. I still would have no idea how to fill out a tax return.
And that's I guess it was because I was like, moved out 16, 17, was doing gigs from about 13, and then was just getting enough money that I'd stopped working a real job at 15, 16. So then there was no super, no one was doing tax, and I was getting cash gigs in Canberra all the time. And then, because I was young and hungry, people would be like, hey, man, we'll give you $100 to do this 3-set gig. Yeah, I'll do it. All right. Yeah, I just spent $100. So I was probably working for way less, having the best time because I'm getting given $100 cash and I'm like not even old enough to drink yet. And people are signing me into bars going, we'll look after him. We'll make sure he's a good boy. And then I moved to Sydney and it just got to this point where, like, when I started doing bigger gigs, where it just like all kind of comes down on you, like, whoa, where's your tax? We need your tax. I was like, oh no. And so it really took me probably 3 or 4 years to get my financial side stuff sorted. And I was lucky because a lot of people, when you get stung by that stuff, you're gone. And that's a piece of advice for people nowadays is don't be like Ben. And it was great it was great until it caught up with you and then it's really bad, And I know a lot of my mates have been in that same boat where, it can get really, really rough. I know people have gone through bankruptcy and stuff like that and they can't, basically their career gets stopped. Because you're like, oh, I'm bankrupt. And people are like, okay, so.
Look, I hate to butt in again. I think it's really simple. And I do clinics on this stuff. And the clinic that I do is called How to Make a Better Than Good Living as a Musician, right? Because that's what I've done. I've been really fortunate. But it's really simple. And the first thing that I come up with is be presentable. Look decent. It's something we kind of but that's fashion, whatever works. I mean, you wouldn't do that at a wedding, right? But you wouldn't wear a suit at the boat shed. Well, maybe you would. So the thing is, dress appropriately, be on time, make sure your gear works. On the amount of times you roll up to a gig and the bass player's amp doesn't work, or all that sort of shit. You ought to be. I've got 2 amplifiers in my car at any time. I always take at least 2 guitars. So you get those things, and that's from doing sessions galore. My car was always filled with guitars.
It's true. The day, I always remember, it's that 2 guitar thing, or I remember doing a gig at Lizottes in Kincumber, and I was had the 2 acoustics, and I was like, oh, we're just doing the support. I won't need the other acoustic. And at Lizottes, it was a bit of a slog down to where the car park was. And we were 3 songs in of 8 songs, and 2 strings break in one moment. And it's just me and Mahalia, and I looked at her and she just looked at me like, you fucking idiot. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And I just had to run down to the car. And she's like, yes, is everyone having a nice night tonight? Oh, yeah, it's great. It's wonderful.
Yeah, but you get caught out once you don't ever want to go through it again.
Totally. And that was that one time. Yeah. And it's no, never again. All the time I did a gig with Darren Percival. He's like, yeah, we're all got to wear suits. And I was hungover from partying hard the night before. And I grabbed this suit. And I was like, yeah, well, this will do, whatever. And I'm like, what's the gig for? And he goes, oh, it's a fashion awards. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool. And we get there and I've got 2 different coloured pinstripe top and bottom, fully mismatched. And I was like, oh, I look like such a tool bag right now. That was embarrassing too.
The other thing is I have a rule that most of the band don't stick to anyway, but I've said it, they all know it, and that is no alcohol before you go on stage. If you want to drink, take a drink on stage, go for your life, but let's all be on the same level as we are when we first start. And you know what's really interesting?
One day you'll do that, Dan. No.
And I
Sweet
think I think that came once when I was playing with Dragon. We were supporting Elton John at the Commonwealth Stadium in New Zealand, Commonwealth Games Stadium, 80,000 people, and we're supporting, and it's, we've been there for an hour. Hey, tour manager, there's no beer in the fridge. Oh, yeah, but there's vodka. I don't drink vodka. We'll just have some vodka. No, get me some beer. All right, I'll go and get you some beer. So it went on right up, mate, there's no beer here. There's no beer here. Right up until minutes before we're getting on stage, and there's still no beer in the fridge. And I said, fuck it. Or the band had left and gone to go up the stage. I've gone, fuck it, I'll just get a vodka and lemonade. Got the vodka and lemonade, filled it up, got bang, straight on stage. And I've put it on my amplifier and it's gone clunk all over me and all over the guitar and all over the amplifier. And I've gone, fuck, where's the beer? But, I think from that, and I think that, like not being on the same wavelength before you go on stage, I reckon that's really important to be on the same wavelength. Yeah. And although I ask the guys never to do it, they do it anyway. And
that's the hidden evil of this industry, I guess, is the partying thing, which, I'm sure we've all pushed the boat out in our time.
But then again, it's that professionalism. It's like you're being paid. Let's do a great job for the audience. They're paid their money. Yeah. I know it's fun and you want to party, but that's not what we're here for.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's hard to, like, you can get caught up in the party of the end. It's very easy to lose sight of the gig, because that's what I mean. If you're hanging out with mates and you're like taste some success or whatever, and come to this party because you're like the cool guitar player in this band. You're like, yeah, all right, it's real hard, but it is something that I definitely say that's a business thing to be mindful of, because it's like you're saying, if you go real hard, get real sideways on a few gigs, and word gets around, like it's just, and it's, at the end of the day, it's probably less about business and more about just, you don't want to see your friends or people who are talented and you want to do well. You don't want to see them fail by virtue of something like that. So it's like, I always feel a bit of personal responsibility. If I see someone, I'm like, hey man, just cool it out. Just chill, please. Because, I've known so many incredible musicians who haven't gotten there because they just, partied and screwed up. I'm like, don't know, this guy is...
Some amazing musicians, man.
Yeah.
Like, not just okay, like, fuck, I've seen some amazing guys just go under because of it.
Yeah. And that's business, you know what I mean? Because in this business, unfortunately, that's always there, that side of it, like the party, the drugs, the booze, and...
Yeah. It's like the internet. Your dick pic will always come back to bite you.
How many jobs can you have a beer in your break?
Or a beer while you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, while you're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not there Friday afternoon with year 8. Just kicking off.
See, that was a great thing about uni. I was hanging out with the lecturers. I was like, let's come back to the dorm room and let's party.
Yeah. How funny is uni when kids out of school, they get to uni, there's a bar here. It's
mate.
open at 2 p.m.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, when you go to a music uni, it's like, all the music stuff are there before you. Hey, it's Dave Finiki. Hey, everyone.
Dan, you got anything to add to that? Building a business?
No, I think the only thing that I would add to it, besides what's been already said already about rocking up on time and, being a nice guy and all that, which costs you nothing, and learning the parts if it's an original gig especially. One thing that I don't know if I do or if I don't, I like to be mindful of it, and I think I do it, is because I've been juggling being on both sides of the world, I make a conscious effort to keep in touch as well, like, because I don't want to be the guy that goes, I haven't spoken to you for a year, but I'm back. Can you get me some gigs? Or be that guy where it's just like, there's nothing there. And plus what all the other guys were saying before, like the guys you're kind of there for a hang. So you get the guys who you want to, I guess, you'd much rather put on a guitarist that would learn their parts and be a cool hang than some guys immensely talented, but he's an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, so I kind of purposefully try and keep in touch with people, and I genuinely like them anyway as friends, and make sure you hang out with them outside of music. Like I actually find joy in that, and once again, I know Ben and I have brought up Yanya, but that's the cool thing about Yanya as well. Like he'll be down to have a hang at whatever time, you know, or whatever. And I think that's a part of the kind of, I don't know if you'd label it professionalism of it, but I think it's a massive part because, it does, you know, not that I'm in it for more gigs, but it does get you more gigs, but it also makes connections stronger, and everything's pretty much run on connections and relationships, you know, but that's pretty much it.
Good
Plus
stuff.
everything that Pete said.
Yeah. Hey, Pete, can I get the number of your...
All right, let's talk about gear. Well, let's you talk about gear.
I've got a lexicon and
Yeah, which one?
Rockman.
Man, all that
the
old rack
MPX
stuff
G2
is... That
with
old,
with a switcher.
I've still got that. I've still got one of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like those old Korg SDD. Oh, is it SDD? What's the one?
Oh,
that,
yeah,
like,
the
edge
delay and the
users,
reverb.
the delay. Man, that stuff is...
You know when I first got that lexicon, you know how much it was with the pedal board? $5,000.
Yeah, that'd be right.
Yeah. Woo! And
Those are the
Well,
I
people
sat up
complaining about buying
for 2 days programming it.
There you go.
Just sat there, just night.
It was great stuff.
Day.
It was great fun. They were great
Seriously.
things.
Just from excitement, you know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Do you guys like because that's, you know, like, I guess you're my age, right? You're a little younger than me. Oh, yes, young. You're the young.
Well, how old are you? How
I'm
old?
36.
34.
Am I? Hang on.
Dan's how old?
1983. Am I?
32. And
Yeah,
how old are
you-
you, Chris?
46.
You could all be my children.
We are. Well, in a way, we are.
Maybe you are.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, I'm 60 next year. Yeah, I was fucking when I was 14, mate.
Don't edit that. Whatever you do. No.
You could be my uncle.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's something you guys have seen gear go from like what you're
man,
talking about that period.
Yeah.
And also, but then it always kind of comes back to like, you know, like Dumbles or a Marshall Plexi or
Well,
like, how do you feel about it now that we're in this
That's
digital
really
emulation
interesting.
age? Because it's like digital sort of came back, went a bit, and now it's like back with the whole Axe effects, all that.
I've seen it all and I've been through it all, and I'm completely digital, and I have no desire to go back to tubes. It's you know, I remember sitting at my studio once going, all right, here's tape and here's the same thing, some drums on tape, and here's drums off the computer. And I remember going, yeah, okay. Yeah, I could hear the difference. I thought if I'm going that much to try and hear the difference of something, I'm wasting my energy. And I tell you what, I love the digital world and I love the Axe effects. I'm never going back. I'm in there so much now. I love that world.
Yeah, I feel like in terms of, I guess, all of us, like we're sitting here in a room with an aux box.
Well, that's different.
Well, that's different, but it's kind of
that's-
half of it, isn't it? Like
Because you're still getting...
you get the front end of the amp, but
Well,
the back end is the emulation. of
okay,
the-
so...
like that's
Because I've got the
medium.
Helix. I've got the Helix,
Oh,
right?
yep.
And they're all modelled amps. They've done the whole, you know, whatever they do, scientific thing, off an amp. You know? Whereas the aux is really... Everyone's got the Marshall, their own Marshall
Yeah,
with... There might be some
individual-
other...
the chip's broken or the
some
treble
other
bleed
capacitor,
pot. Yeah, yeah.
blah, 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 which makes it really unique,
Yeah.
you know?
And do you
So-
worry? That's what I mean. Do you guys worry that because we're going? It's like auto tune of guitar, you know. Like I know there's so much nuance in like Axe effects and stuff like that, but it's like I always think as a producer, you'll hear top 40 songs like we're talking about before. And I always laugh because you'll hear a song. There's this one song that was on. And I was like, oh man, that's like when you open Ableton and bring up the organ. That's the first patch.
Yeah.
It's like when a Juno came out or
Yeah.
a Prophet, and like they turned it on and went, and it went bzz, that's it. Let's write a song. And so when you hear that song, you go, oh, it's patch one of a.
Well, I think that's the joy for me is pulling it apart and getting the best out of it. And I spent fucking years trying to get the best out of the Axe-Fx, and I've been, they gave me one 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So they've kept giving me stuff, and Andrew Farnham is just the absolute joy because he understands the machine. And I think with Axe-Fx, they are a little bit, I don't want to put anything down because they're all amazing, but Axe-Fx are really beyond.
Yeah.
With what they come up with and what they do. Their updates are incredible. The guy Cliff and what he does, he's more than a boffin. He's a fucking.
Well, that's what scared me about it, because it's like that's what we used on Jimmy's last tour, as we were saying before, and it was just frighteningly deep, the detail you can get into. Whereas I tried the Helix, the Stomp, the floorboard one, and that was cool because I just basically pulled it out, plugged it in, went, oh, sick, cool, this is fun. Yeah. And then I've played a Kemper as well, and that's kind of in between the two a bit, but tonally I preferred the Axe, which is why we ended up using that on the road.
I think the versatility and the create, like I find myself waking up in the morning going, oh, I could just compress the top end of that amp and get the bottom end, and then I could put 4 amps on. I could put, you can come up with all these
endless,
ideas.
Isn't it?
It's you come up with a creative idea and you can select it live. Like my thing is because I improvise a lot on gigs, I want to have things at my foot, and so I can do things like change a cab.
Yeah, you can suddenly be playing through Fenders.
Add some air to the cab.
I think they've all got something off a Kemper.
That's right.
Yeah.
Helix. Like the Helix is like having literally pedals.
That's what I liked about it. Is
like
it's on
you
the
can
floor
change all your parameters. Well, it's like having a pedal board.
Yeah.
Like you just go.
But they're all like that. They're all like that.
Yeah.
You can, and the thing with the Axe-Fx now is you've got with the FC12 is you've got 10 buttons on board, and they do minimum four things, right, each. So you can assign them to anything.
Yeah, but I mean, you could. Have you mucked around with the Helix?
Yes, I have. It's great. Okay, yeah. I love it.
Mark's just there going, man, I just want my Fender in a fuzz.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm with Mark on that.
Yeah, but
I still want the amp.
And that's what I mean. I'm torn because like we were saying I think we weren't recording yet, but on a big tour, you can't deny the ease of use of an Axe-Fx, or when you're doing shows.
It's all convenient for
that's. But then when you go home, like it's that thing of like I still want a germanium fuzz that's crapping out a bit and it's hot, and so it sounds different. You're like, ooh.
You know what? The pedals don't Helix, Axe-Fx, whatever you want to call it, like any one of them, they're not the same as the pedal. They're just not.
Oh, I see. That's like saying to me that recording on tape is different to computer.
Here we go.
What I mean,
because I have no problems with it.
No, I'm talking about the pedal side of it, not the amp side.
No, I'm saying the same thing.
Yeah.
You check out what's Axe-Fx has gone as far as all those pedals, man.
I have to say, I went over to Petey's place and he showed me the rig. I'm analog all the way, but the detail that Pete pulled from all the sounds, man, if he gave me that rig tomorrow, I'd be like,
yeah, I guess we could all go on.
Yeah, that's right. It's right. It's personal. It's a personal thing.
We're arm wrestling. You can't see, but we're all arm wrestling.
It is, and it's a personal thing, and I get that. I think just as far as I'm concerned, I love it. I love my amp, because I've never really loved an amp. I've always been searching for that. I fucking love it. Like I'm gone.
Yeah, so
I want to go home and jerk off over it at the moment because it's just, it's so good.
But you're going to see the parameters.
Here's the parameter. Well, that's what I mean. Like, I guess I was asking, or you guys as guitar players, like, is there one piece of gear, like, from, like, if there was one thing that you've played or have that
the Desert Island rig.
Well,
that's what Matt said.
Yeah, kind of that, but just that one thing that you just always come back to. And
is yours Dumble? Is that the answer?
No.
Ooh.
It's funny because you said everyone's going deep. I like going deep, but the one piece of gear that I can't do without is the guitar. The rest is fine because you can make it work. Yeah. Whatever you go through, if it's your hands and your mind, it'll work through anything. You just got to spend the time finding what that sound is. But having said that, if I was to choose another piece of gear, it'd be a Super Reverb 65.
That one?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's true about the guitar. It's funny. Like I'll never forget. We were recording Mahalia's first like full length album, and Diesel Mark was playing guitar, and we did Purple Rain as like a bonus track on the end. And Mark's a massive Prince fan, and it was just like it blew my mind because he was just getting mad, like this is terrible, you know. And I'm like, nothing you've done is terrible. Like, this is amazing. And he goes, I just sound like me. and it's hilarious, but it's like Mossy's the same. You hang out with those guys and they pick up like your guitar, you know, or a nylon string classical that they beat up a kid off the street and took, and it sounds like them.
Yep.
And that's the.
You know,
like
I realized
Did
many
Franco
years-
play on that album?
No, that's pre-Franco. That's
okay.
all. The very first one is all Mark.
I was going to say the next one with Franco is my guitar.
Which guitar? Which one?
It's the Relic 96, 1996 Olympic white rosewood neck.
Oh, is that yours?
That's mine.
Oh, that's one that has a little mango seat. That's a great guitar. Have you seen his new guitar? He's got a new,
green
like
one?
the green one. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
You know, I realized many years ago that the reason why I kept buying guitars, and I've got about 90 guitars, is that I used to think that if I tried something that felt really good, I thought, this is going to help me play better. This next one is going to be
This
the
is
one.
the one.
Yeah,
That's like a gambler.
it is. It is. I'm totally addicted to it. But
Yeah, with that gear thing, what you just said, I've literally downsized everything. I have a rosewood Strat, one. I've got a maple Strat, but I have two of them just in case the other one dies because it's getting a bit worn up. And that's it. I just simplified and got rid of everything. I do have a Les Paul as well and a 335 for sessions and the acoustics and stuff, but they sit in my studio just in the corner.
The other thing is, which we spoke about before everyone got here. Remember we were talking about like the whole not being sort of, it's just a material thing. Like it's just a plank of wood.
Yeah,
so it's all in your head. Like
It is, but I think
whatever happens to it, right? You can get another one. and
But,
play
Yeah,
it.
but,
it is just a
but
bit
the
of wood.
beautiful part
Right?
about that, though, is you kind of have to have a romantic relationship with that thing for it to work its best. So even though you're like
Yeah,
attached or detached, there's still something going on there. But at the end of the day,
But
if
it's-
that dies, you just get another one.
It's
to
when
replace it.
you're so caught up in it, like
Correct.
that one thing, that you're screwed.
Yeah. It's the prison.
get robbed and you'll know all about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, it's funny, my Ibanez gem, the floral gem, which has been my main guitar for decades, it was stolen. It was lost once and stolen twice, and I've got it back each time.
That's amazing.
So it's like it was meant to be, you know.
Yeah, I've got a Strat, it's this pink, shell pink Bitzer that I actually bought. It's a funny story. Franco is my guitar guru guy, right? He'll just look up and go, hey Ben, man, I found a guitar. I'm like, man, I'm left-handed. He's like, yeah, I was looking. I'm like, okay, thanks, Franco. Creep. No, but he's found me 3 or 4 killer guitars, and so he found this guitar and he goes, it's pink, but it looks really cool. Charles Celia set it up. It's a Bitzer. It's like a music. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know anything about this stuff, but it looks cool, so I'll try it out. And it was like $1,200, and I think it was down at Annandale. He was teaching something, and I went down there and I tried this guitar out, and it was just, you pick up a guitar and you go, yeah, all right, this is incredible. And I played this guitar and I was like, whoa, the strings are light, but there's something about it. It's just had I don't think they're the Fletcher Landau ones. I think it's just the straight V60s pickups in it and stuff like that for all the big nerds out there. And it was so killer. And the guy's like, yeah, man, yeah. I'm like, man, why are you selling this guitar? It's unbelievable. I love it. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, I'm doing a Cold Chisel cover band and it's just not right. And I'm like, oh, it's pretty right. It sounds pretty killer, not wanting to say anything. He's like, yeah, no, trust me. I need this and I want this and to be more like Mossy and to do this. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. All right, I'll give you $900 for it. And I was like, okay, he wants to sell it. So I haggled him down from $1,200 or something. And I got this guitar. And he's like, oh, so what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to Lizottes to play with Jimmy Barnes and Mossie's going to come down. And so, but that guitar is like, I don't care, but if that guitar went, I would be pretty devo. There's just something, like I bought the same pickups, put them in a similar guitar just to have a B guitar, you know, kind of thing. Thinking, oh yeah. And it's just, there's just something about this particular guitar. It's not perfect, like has this weird thing where the E string will drop a tone and a half sometimes, which is really inappropriate at times when you're in the midst of a song. You know, like it's got gremlins that need to be fixed and stuff, but it's just like, I don't know. Yeah. It's just, and that's what I mean. Like it doesn't matter how much it costs.
No.
At the end, like it might have been, it's been through something with you and then you just like, you have such fond memories like of that single piece of gear. That's probably the one thing that other than my children and my wife, that I'd take out of the house if there was a fire.
Yeah.
Oh, and my dog, because I just bought a dog.
Dan, what's your take on gear, man? Do you have a lot of gear? Do you take out much gear?
Man, you're talking to the wrong guy here, man.
I love the look on your face there. It's just
the rub of the eyes.
I'll tell you this. I bought my first electric guitar in 2004, and it was a US standard Stratocaster, and I bought my second electric guitar about 2 years ago, and it was a Tellys, and I own 2 electric guitars, and that's all I have.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the business. That's the smart business guy right there.
Yeah. And I would, but I think, I mean that comes down to nothing but financial reasons, but I would probably always have like an orchestra model nylon steel string. Like I play an OM Martin, which is kind of like, I guess, Tracy Chapman, Paul Simon, John Mayer Martin, and I really like that size rather than a jumbo or dreadnought. And I do love a nylon string, but between those 4, like that's everything I want sorted. Like I think the Telly to me is all I need. I mean, apart from the whammy bar, which is why I love the Strats. But what Mark was saying about, you know, your fingers creating the tones and everything, I've kind of in my head worked a way where I could play the Telly and make it believable. But if I want to go for like a, you know, whether it's an arch toppy sound or like a twangy sound or whatever, and I find like for where I want to go, the Telly's the be all and end all for me. If I had to choose one ultimate guitar, as far as rigs concerned, I've always only really played through one 12-inch speaker, deluxe reverbs or hot rod deluxes. So like that's probably all I would ever use because I'm just so used to it. And I know how to make it hum. I know how to make it feed back to where I want it to go. But I don't know, pedal rig, a tube screamer, you can't go past a tube screamer. But that's it for me, man. Quite easy. And
January.
Actually, I'd say the only technical thing that I would get, I have to use 11 strings. I find any heavier or any lighter, like
11 to 48, or.
Well, I'm currently using Elixirs purely because of the long life thing, which are 11 to 49.
Oh yeah.
But I can't remember what other ones I was using, the Diodarios or Ernie Balls or whatever. But 11 to 49 I've been using for the last at least 7 years. And
yeah, I'm like 11 to 52 is like the sweet spot for me.
Yeah. Is that what B.B. King was using?
Sure. No, I was a hero. I was one of those dudes where, because I love Stevie, so I was like, look, 13s is ridiculous, so I'm going to try 12s.
I tried that too, man.
And it's like a fence paling, man. You could like garrote somebody, like James Bond. Like you can't even bend the G string when you have the 12s on there. It's like a 56 or something. It's outrageous.
I went the opposite side too. Like I tried the 10s because I had tried 10s and 9s for the Clapton and Prince for using 10s and 9s, and it just messed with me. Like 11s were perfect to me. I could bend them, and like it still made me work a little bit, but it was enough to not kind of get it superly out of tune, like when I was trying to be Hendrix with the whammy bar. But yeah, that's the only thing I'd be super picky on. 12:53 on acoustic, 11:49 on electric.
Just on those string things, I think for a lot of guitarists, there's a lot of myth around strings and tone and all that stuff. And someone said to me a long time ago, if you can't pull tone from 10s or 9s, don't play guitar. I use 11s,
Johnny
but
Winter used like
Eights.
right?
yeah, I mean it's in your fingers. It's not in.
Well, it's the action.
external.
It's the action.
Yeah, and that's where your personal preference of how
So
it
if you-
feels comes in.
Light strings, higher action.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Right?
I think as I get older, my action gets higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's pretty
It's
high.
really interesting. Like it used to be, you know.
Mine's high too.
So being a drummer,
Yeah, here we go.
explain to me why is that the case?
The gauge.
Well, why with a
action?
yeah? Why would you have a higher action with a smaller
The
gauge?
string's tighter
string?
with a heavier gauge. So
Right.
with the looser gauge, you get more vibration like that, and it'll
Okay.
probably hit the
It'll
fretboard
vibrate
and die
with the
out.
frets. Okay, gotcha. Cool.
Is that-
That's to all my drummer
Yeah,
friends.
I mean, it's you know, I
It's
have.
like springs on a snare, I guess. You know, if you have it too
Yeah,
tight,
similar.
it's too dampened. And,
See, I have 9 to 42s on my whammy, like locking whammy, like gems, Ibanez's, and I put 10s on everything else. And the 9s on the gems and stuff work perfectly for me, you know, because it's.
And what does do you do? Like I remember talking with Joe Bonamassa, and he was saying that there's 2 specific gauges that he uses on, like, say, Strats and Les Pauls.
Yeah.
I think he uses like a lighter maybe it's like a 10.
Les Pauls are heavier.
Yeah, 10s on the Strat and 11s on the Les Paul because it's a shorter
Yeah,
scale
sure,
length.
that's right.
And he said that's just perfect. Like he goes, no, so they feel.
But you know
Yeah.
the thing about him, I don't think he's got high action.
No, it's
No.
not crazy high.
Yeah,
It's not like
it's
crazy
lowish.
low. Yeah.
And the other thing is, I remember reading an interview where he doesn't wear frets, so he doesn't grip really hard.
No.
You know,
Look at that poor bloody guitar
Yeah.
behind you.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a technique thing too. Yeah.
Oh fuck, my technique's
Yeah,
fucked, man. I go through strings every gig. I'll change strings, and I will easily go through 2 to 4 picks a song. And you've seen the picks that I use? Yep. They're massive, and it's just
I do that, but that's because I dropped them.
and I bend sometimes just bend so far out of tune.
are they 1.5?
1.5, but I'll easily go through two of those
wow.
a song.
Have you refretted your guitars? Like, do you have to refret them a lot?
My cream Strat's been about 4. It's probably coming up 5th.
How's the neck on it?
I'm going stainless steel
Yes.
Ah.
because I don't want to lose that guitar.
Yeah. Well, that's like
a great idea.
Danny Spencer, incredible guitarist, has this beautiful Daphne. Oh, is it Daphne or Sonic
I know that
Blue?
guitar.
Yeah, that one. And he's just taken the neck off because it's like
He's killed it.
the board's worn down to the point where they're like, "Ugh."
That's a rosewood board too.
Yeah, that's a slab board, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
That Strat just there, I've done 5 refrets, and I went through stainless steel within a year.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That
that's
blows me
it.
out.
Like that's the luthier's like, that's going to be the last refret. So that is my pride and joy. It's just such a shame.
What is this?
It's going to be a killer fretless guitar, though, I think.
What is it?
It's
a new thing.
2009, 56.
Relic.
Yeah, it wasn't Relic. I've just.
Oh, it wasn't,
That's all
okay.
me.
But it's custom shop.
Custom shop. yeah.
Custom shop.
Yeah.
I've got one of these with little frets. I'm trying to sell it.
There you go. Man, this is like a
relic?
great sell.
Relic, heavy relic, looks like that.
I've got a Martin. No.
And it's got the V sort of neck.
Oh,
That
yeah,
V
yeah,
is
yeah.
beautiful.
It's a beautiful sounding guitar, but I just can't play it, and I don't want to edit it. I want to sell it as it is.
What's the why am I asking questions?
No, please.
There's lots of guitarists here, so I'm asking. Pedal hype, for one, like, because there's so many, like, you know how now there's, you know, obviously there's the Klon Centaur hype and all that stuff, and then so many pedals is like a world industry now. But then also like the whole custom shop relic guitar thing. Like, would you guys rather just get a guitar built by, say, Frank Grabisa or Charles Cillier or Jeff Marley or something like that, or go the Fender? Like, you know what I mean? Do you think like Fender and Gibson have lost some of the prestige of what they are versus like guys that...
I don't think Fender have.
No, not Fender.
No way.
You don't think so? No, I mean in the sense of like,
Fender's
you,
like
you
kicking
would
ass.
you go and buy like an American Standard Strat, or would you get a Nash, or would you
No,
get...
I'd buy Fender.
I'd buy Fender
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I really like the custom shops and the relics because
Oh,
they
yeah. But they're so
spend time on them. It's
expensive,
great
though.
wood. The necks always feel great. The pickups are. I think it's kind of they spend a little bit more time on those things, belting them up. And the beauty about it is, if you scratch it or you drag it along the ground, it's still worth the same amount.
Yeah. And there's something that they do to the necks that I don't think I've felt in anyone else's necks on the market. Just that roll off.
Yeah.
It's just Fender, and they just have it bang on. Again, if there's a really good Nash on the wall and you play it and it's freaking amazing and it feels good,
so
great.
many more other options of a Strat.
You know,
or a Les
know,
Paul.
for me, some of the boutique stuff feels really clinical.
Like Sirs, you mean? Like those?
They're just like so nice, and I feel like I can't bash it. And
Yeah. That's like...
I don't know what it is.
that's
It's
something...
like-
I wonder if it's
these
like...
are so expressive.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Chris,
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know. I just was saying yeah.
Yeah, man.
Are you live?
Chris, you were you mentioned your guitar, and Mark was asking about the refrets. Do you want to explain to the nice people at home what your Strat is? Because I know we've talked about it.
It's an 80. It's not your typical sort
Nah,
of.
it's-
The hardtail,
know,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's a hardtail, but it's an 83.
What a great year.
And the way it came, yeah, it is an awesome year. 83.
like me.
When's your birthday?
September 1983.
Okay. Oh, that's why. All right. Not because of Van
It was a
Halen
really
sort of
great-
releasing
well, that's
1984.
You could still be my child.
It was a very good year.
That particular Strat came out. It was weird. Like it had the input on the
on
what
the
do you call it?
scratch plate. I think it was
yeah.
the Dan Smith era, I think.
Yeah, scratch plate
Yeah.
with the input going straight out. It looks stupid, you know. But the neck felt great, and it had a mod that input was changed, so it's underneath the bottom part of the body,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Is
And,
it,
I just
single
souped
coil?
it up to my thing.
All single coil?
It was singles at the time now, and I made it
Dug a hole in.
HSS.
And you were doing stuff with Fender today?
Yes,
Last night, yeah?
and tomorrow, yeah.
And tomorrow. Do you want to tell us about that?
I'm just demoing the latest series. It's
Or the American Ultra ones?
the Ultra.
Are they good? They look good.
Yeah, they're like sort of up against this sort of
Okay.
line. So they're the top end before you go custom shop.
Yeah, because I've seen all the demos, like Kirk Fletcher, who's
Yeah.
a friend of mine, was demoing it, who's like, speaking of funky rhythm players, he's a really amazing funky rhythm player. And Ariel Posen, who's another great guitar player.
He's great.
Yeah, man.
And Justice West. I don't know if you
Are
guys
they
have
all
heard of
using
that.
ultras?
Yeah, well, they're in the ads because I've
Okay.
seen that because I follow them all on Instagram. I know Ariel and I know Kirk, and Corey Wong, who's another great funk player. Yeah, they're really pulling out all the stops. So I was like, are these good? And now I get to ask someone who's played them. Are they really good?
Yeah, they're quality.
Yeah.
Because I'm more the traditional sort of.
Yeah,
guy.
because that's, I mean, they've got like push button splits and all that
Yeah.
kind of crazy
Yeah.
stuff down there.
But they're, you know,
Well, I've got a bass that had the push button, and I took it to Piers Crocker and said, "Hey, man, can you just take all this stuff out straight away? Thanks, man." And it's like,
actually, what you should try out is the Fender Tone Master
oh, the
Twin
lightweight, no
and
tubes.
deluxe. Have you seen
Yeah.
it?
Yes.
Have you tried it?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you'll like it.
It's a model
Transistor, yeah.
It's got IRs in it.
I've already got that.
I
and
know
more.
you got the Axe effects.
I've got that.
But you'll just-
times
he's-
a billion.
He's not allowed.
You'll like the
all right?
technology.
He's just not
it's
allowed.
awesome.
Yeah, I know. Look, it sounds like it's a great idea, but I'd still be frustrated. I've always wanted a Marshall, a Vox, and a Fender amplifier on stage, and now I've got it. At least as close as I'm ever going to get to having all those things. But I know they look
Yeah,
great.
no,
They sound
they're
great, and
awesome.
they're really light. So
Yeah.
it's a cool idea. Yeah.
It's a freak out.
Yeah, I'll have to try one.
And they've done really well
Fender.
with the IRs. It's awesome. Yeah.
Does everybody have a studio at home?
Yes, I do.
You got a studio at home? You've got a studio here. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, nearly.
Yeah, right. Dan?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I've got a little home studio,
Yeah.
portable one too.
Yeah.
Probably.
What's your favorite pedal of all time? I'm just asking a
No,
question.
good question.
I'm asking. This is a deep question. All time.
Volume.
Ooh, hey, that's a good one. That is a good one. All right. Well, no, I just
It'll always be there.
Yeah.
yeah.
Everything else changes.
Current
always got the
or
volume.
past favorite pedal.
Wow. I endorse a company called Per Analog Devices, and I actually made a pedal with them that's been really successful, but it's just a boost pedal. It's called a vintage tone booster. And it's amazing. Like, it literally makes the amps that I have sound like my 64 Vibroverb.
Oh yeah.
Like, it just goes, but it's really musical. That's it.
Dan?
We're all getting
Tuna.
one of those after
Cheap
the
Screamer.
show.
Yeah, Tube Screamer, yeah.
I'm a big fan of these. I bought a second-hand full-tone, full-drive, the MOSFET edition, the red one.
Oh.
And I can't put the thing down. I bought it by accident off a mate of mine, and I love it. And I do the bulk of my gigs. Even sometimes it's just that where it's set as a boost and just an overdrive, or you can get overdrive and just like I guess a compression sustainer thing. But yeah, man, I think that is my favourite drive that I've used anyway. But yeah, Tube Screamer.
So it has to be a drive pedal.
Well, no.
No, any pedal.
It can be that lexicon that you're selling.
I reckon the Boss DD20 is the best delay pedal
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
it's
That is a classic.
Why?
because
The
it's
chip.
easy to use. You can change the screen to be either beats per minute or milliseconds. The tap tempo, the Boss have got the best switches.
Right.
That
This is
square
true.
block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're tap tempoing, you're not missing.
Yeah.
You know, with other ones, you're like sort of, oh shit,
Yeah.
it's just not in time.
Yeah.
You know?
I love the idea of the barefoot buttons and things. That's such a great idea now. But they've got all those things.
Sorry, what's a barefoot button?
Well, it's a button that goes on top of your.
It's a button for your button.
It's a bigger button,
Oh,
and they
right.
come in different sizes, and they come wider
It
rather
gives you
than your
more
little.
surface.
rather
to
than
sort of
that,
step on.
So that's
You've got-
that's a guitarist thing, clearly.
Yeah, it's just it's a button thing.
Try them on a bass drum pedal.
It's like putting a really big shoe on you.
Yeah. that's the picture I had in my head.
That's pretty much it.
Right.
Yeah,
gotcha.
DD20. So not a classic old, like what's the DD3? Was that the
Oh, we got one of them, but
yeah.
no, the DD20 take
the
it
future.
to any gig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to look them up.
Matt.
I don't know which one it is.
Your favourite pedal?
What's your favorite pedal?
I had a DD20, loved it. It turned me into a delay snob because instead of just having one
Strymon
delay.
now? You got are you on the Strymon?
Nah, I'm using I've got a Boss MS3 switcher.
Oh yeah.
But favorite pedal, MI Crunchbox, the new one, the newest one, by Michael Ibrahim here in Sydney guy. Killer.
Crunchbox, yeah.
Yeah. But the new one, the old one I didn't get on with, but the new one's kind of cool. But I wish I knew about this years ago, but stacking drives, are you guys into that?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So running like just something with a big mid boost, like a Tube Screamer or a Boss Super Overdrive into that.
Super.
Best thing ever.
My old man
Robert Keeley Super Overdrive mod.
Oh, the mod. Yeah.
That is awesome. And the OD11 love pedal.
Oh, see the Cot 50. The Cot 50 I have love pedal.
I saw one over here.
Off, like with nothing on. Like you turn the pedal on and just turn it down. So it's zero and it just adds fur. That's tied with the Jan Ray.
What'd you say? Adds fur.
Yeah. Just very slow.
You know what I'm going to say, Chris. You know what? It's really interesting.
And you can do all of this on the new.
Yeah, no.
XFX.
What amazes
Coming
me is,
to a-
I mean, from an as an observer of people that buy pedals, and I've always bought rack gear, and I've had pedals, and I've done all that. What amazes me is we got people that spend $800 on a reverb, and complain that the XFX is $2,000. If
they made the XFX look like the reverb.
But even if you just used it for reverbs and delays, you're winning. You know, it just amazes me that people go, it's too expensive. And
like the people that complain about it, it is like a bit of a
it's bizarre. It's really
well, because you don't use that because you want the imperfections. Like if you want a pedal or a reverb spring tank, you want it because it's going to go when you stamp on it, and you know.
I reckon, man, amps. Freaking the reverb in a Fender amp. That's it, right?
The spring, yeah.
I don't use that.
No, but it is it's a sound.
I've got
I've
got the separate tube spring, one where it's just a tube, and that as a preamp is pretty killer.
Right.
Like
you go into that and then into the amp.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's tube out in, tube out, and then more tube, heaps of tubes.
And some people use it just for the preamp, hey?
Yeah.
Like turn the reverb
I
on.
recorded a track where I went into the spring tank, out, straight into a Neve, and just dimed the Neve so it had that full revolution. And it was just, it's killer. It sounds really, really good.
That's awesome. That's kind of like the Echoplex, hey? Because people...
Yeah.
do the
You just
preamp.
drive the preamp. Like when I was talking about the EchoFix one at the beginning, you just... And that's the thing, you can do all that stuff on the XFX, like if you want to. It's just... I think it's more, it comes down to the tactile nature of like, if you're someone that prefers to have like a heavy metal pedal, stick it in the ground and love doing that and going, it's not quite right then.
But you know, I mean, I know it's a sound. It's a thing when you plug, you know, you go into pedals and then you hit an amplifier. But see, that's all well and good if you're a clean amplifier sound and you use distortions. But if I've never liked the sound of pedal distortions, and I've always gone for amplifier,
Just driving the
especially in the studio. Like, you know, I've always had amplifiers as distortion. So, and it always amazes me why people spend $800 on a reverb and then plug it into a preamp and go through an amplifier and then into a guitar speaker.
Reverb, you're saying. Yeah.
All you're doing is distorting and colouring a reverb. Reverb is something
unless it's a
like
spring.
I like to, because I've worked in studio all my life, I like that sound of do whatever you need to do, mic it up, and then put your stuff on.
Yeah, like reverb post.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess then you get into the whole effects loop thing, like if you put your delays and reverbs.
Well, you know, the other
the
thing is
preamp.
a delay will react differently if you put it into an amplifier because you know your tone of a delay is determined on input, right?
Yeah.
Like anything, and so each delay is going to sound different. And now that's a sound. I get that, but it's not like you can do that digitally if you want that.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, it's
When I'm talking about pedals, I'm not speaking about an overdriven amp.
you go clean amp, right?
Yeah, I'm the same. Like that's why I got the Sir SL68, and it's just volume for days. So it just is like a wall of clean fatness.
Yeah.
I've got like a high watt 412 cab with 400 watt speakers in it, and it's just clean. Then I used to have like the Cot 50, a Timmy, and a Jan Ray, and maybe a fuzz, and I would progressively stack the more I couldn't hear on stage. You know?
Can I ask you a question, Pete? For the XFX things, I'm all for the options and things, but when you're on a gig, and especially if you're going from amp to amp, like what's the tweakability like? Or if you're in a different room? Because I know you test all your sounds in a studio. You don't just do it at home. You play them loud. But when you're on the gig,
I've got to the stage now where I know what my speakers sound like, so I can actually. At first, I couldn't do this. I couldn't go write sounds in the studio and then take them live. But now I know how to do that.
Okay.
So I've got that down. So I can take my rig upstairs and no monitor, and I'm fine. I think that I have banks and banks of stuff. So I have I found the Ultimate Speaker IR, so I use that on everything.
Yep.
And I occasionally add things that I like a 112 or something. I never use a quad because when you're modelling a quad and they've got microphones everywhere and they're modelling bottom end of a quad, like back and front and then you put that through a monitor that has its own bottom end. You're just screwing with bottom end and you're just doubling up on bottom end. So that's why I think a smaller speaker works better, sounds tighter. But I have so many patches, and within each one of those patches, I can turn on 8 overdrives within each patch. So I can go, well, for this sound, I want that clean sound, not that clean sound. And that's all, like I can hit that button 4 times and it'll do a different thing. Mm-hmm. And then I can go to so I've got everything, like as I say, I want it so I can improvise on the spot. I want it set up like pedals, but I also want to have amplifiers switched. So it's complex.
Yeah.
But that's what I've always wanted. I want versatility at all times.
And that's the only thing I think that's stopping it, isn't it? Is that initial getting over the hump of
that's
understanding.
Most people
it's
buy
like
them, plug them in, and go, "Oh, that's a good sound," and then they get to the gig and go, "It sounds like shit. Sounds like fuzz." Well, yeah, it sounds great in the studio, but
which is what I had. Like the initial thing, I was like, "This is frightening."
But then there's the other thing with these units. If you don't know about amps to start with,
that's it.
You're gone.
That's it, Chris. Yeah. That's it. And this is the problem that I get with people contacting me on the forums and all that sort of stuff is they send me their patches and I go, man, you've shoved the reverb in front. You've done all the things wrong and you don't know what an amplifier does and all your gain structure is wrong and all that sort of. Once luckily I've had a lot of experience with a lot of amplifiers. I've had lots of amplifiers, so I know how they work. But most people don't. And especially now that everything's a software instrument or it's in a pedal, you know.
Yeah, well, I would make the joke with on tour because this is the first time I've used that virtual guitar amp thing. And I'd always just laugh because I just look over at the keyboard players on their Nords and go, wait a minute, you guys have been doing this for a decade. You're like, and it's true. Like when you think about all that, like those guys, they've been not playing. They've been living that world, whether they like it or not. So, yeah.
What else have you got there for us, Matt?
What else we got? All right.
It's getting on.
It is getting on. Great gigs, horror story gigs.
I have a hilarious one. Oh, it's not really hilarious. Well, it is kind of funny. First time I ever played guitar for Jimmy, it was in Mauritius. And I'd played some bass and stuff like that. And he was like, hey, you can play guitar. And I was like, yeah, I can do that, whatever. Yeah, it'd be cool. And anyway, so I'm like, yeah, sick. I'm going to play guitar for Jimmy in Mauritius. Great. And anyway, we fly over. I think because I sold all my guitars when I moved to Sydney so I could pay for rent and stuff because I was getting bass gigs. So I was only playing bass. So I was like, shit, I just bought a Japanese...
you a bass player first or a guitar player?
Guitarist first. So I grew up playing guitar from 12 to about 16, 17. And then my mate got into the con on guitar. So I said, I'll just play bass in this band we're playing. So I just took up bass. And then played bass ad nauseum till then. But yeah, so playing guitar, bought a Japanese 50s telly, those just like a maple neck guy. Didn't have any pedals, so I was like hunted around. I found a Rat and I was like, sick. All right, I've got a Proco Rat and a telly. Let's go. And I'm like, what amps have they got there? And they're like, they've got a Marshall. And I was like, sick, this would be a vibe then. A telly with a Rat and a Marshall, that'll be great for Jimmy's gig. Anyway, we fly over to Mauritius and it's all great. And then we finally get there and we go to the gig and it's a Marshall valve state. Yeah. And not a big Marshall valve state either, like the little practice amp one. And I was just like, I'm going to die. He's going to kill me. It was
I had a similar story of when I first joined Dragon and it was late 80s and our first gig, so we'd done 2 weeks or whatever it was of rehearsals and our first gig was the MTV special on Dragon. And all our gear...
I watched that.
Yeah, and all our gear was on a truck to Perth for our first gig. Let's do Perth because it's, it's far away. So all our gear's on the truck. And I got a sponsorship that week for Crate amplifiers. Need I say any more?
Yeah.
So we all
Milk
got
crate
crate amplifiers. Mike Kane said, "Yeah, I'll try it out. Let's do it." It was fucking terrible. I mean, it was okay. We got through it, but it was not good, And that was the first gig. Was the MTV thing.
I had a incident at the State Theatre with Tina Arena opening like the show.
Love it.
So I start, the song Burn. Yeah. So I do this little intro on the acoustic, and the guitar tech had given me the guitar, put it over, but the strap wasn't on properly. Oh, yeah. It was sort of bent.
Yeah.
So I do this little lick just before Tina comes in, and the guitar drops, and I just caught it. And she was up the front, and she felt something was not right. She turns around, and she's like, "Oh, shit happens."
Yeah, you're at the mercy of if your band leader's like a good sport at that moment, aren't you? Like, look at me, please don't make this worse.
Oh, she was really cool, but
yeah, she's a legend.
That was my shitty moment, but yeah.
The only one I can remember that was a bit of a weird one was the first time I did a gig at the Bridge, and it was with Andre Kamen, and Andre had been playing or singing for you for many years.
What's that on a Sunday afternoon when I wasn't there or something?
I don't know when it was with Black Diamond Heart.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And man, I always used to come and watch you, like one of my biggest inspirations. And playing with Andre is like, man, you get to play the Bridge. That's my home ground. That's my treading ground. I'm like, yeah, woo! All right, let's see. And everyone came to watch Andre because they've been watching you. And it was the first solo of a song, and I let rip and let this big solo out. And this guy comes up to me and goes, hey. He goes, get the fuck off your stage, you pop star. And I'm like, all right, thank you.
I love it.
There you go. There's my story.
Love it.
Yeah, the first time.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'll never forget Mahalia and I were doing supports for Jimmy. I think it was Yamba, maybe. And it used to happen all the time. But like, it's Mahalia and they know who she is and we're all there playing. And then the crowd's like, just fuck off, you cunt. Like just going off like constantly. And we would get this all the time. And like, and I was new to Jimmy's crowd. I was like, ooh, this is a bit frightening. And we used to get all the time. And I just got to this point. Mahalia was pretty good. And then one of the days we were just all in a bad mood. And she was like, if you don't shut the fuck up, I'm going to play K-San, Flame Trees and Working Class Man, and then he won't have to, so shut your fucking mouth. And then from then on, everybody loved us. Like, it was great. It was like the rite of passage, like, to like, they're like, oh, she's all right. We love her. Ah! It was like, oh, man.
Crazy.
Audiences are wonderful. We love them.
Yeah.
I've been in that support Jimmy thing like years ago
brutal,
with Richie, Richie Vez.
Yeah.
We had a band together. It was Andre on vocals, Fab on drums, and we were supporting Jimmy at Shell Harbour.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going for a full-on rock and roll band, and there's just people at the front just sticking their middle finger up at us.
It's a rite of passage. And I swear, if you're not from Australia, you wouldn't understand.
Well, that's why I always thought that the support band thing was a silly idea because you're never paid to go and see a support band. Yeah.
But how's the mentality of it? It's like they're following a football team.
Yeah, if you can win, that's what I mean. We used to always think with crowds like that, if you can win them over, then you're doing all right.
Yeah.
Like if you can, and that's I think a Aussie pub rock thing is like I think sometimes even if they're there to see you, they're like that in Australia. And if you can win over a pub rock crowd and entertain them without them throwing beer bottles at you, which I've had ducked quite a few playing gigs in Canberra and Newcastle when I was younger.
Yep.
Like
Fannies.
Yeah, Fanny Bay.
Fanny's up at Newcastle. Yeah, know it well.
Oh, Maitland.
Fannies.
Mate. And that's what I mean. If you can press the pub rock crowd in Australia, as a guitarist especially, you're doing all right. You're doing all right.
To be honest, the other questions, apart from the working with the tech, you've basically answered in all your questions anyway. Sorry, you've answered them in your answers.
Yeah. There was something about
I have to give a shout out to Hayden Vassallo. if we're talking about techs.
Yeah, there was something
Okay,
about.
let me ask that question then.
There was something about.
I'm just going to say we don't have to talk about him because
Okay.
I don't want to. But I'm just he's been my guitar
Hate
tech
him
for
for solo.
he's been my guitar tech for like 10 years.
Full stop.
Yeah, pretty much.
There was a question somebody asked about what we thought of James Muller, and I think he's one of the fucking best guitar players on the planet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was coming.
Also, if we're talking, Steve Magnuson is one of an incredible Australian guitar player who
I don't know him.
I saw a gig on as him and Julian Wilson. It was like Melbourne guys, and what's the bass player? But it was like Bill Frisell kind of vibes, and it was just so killer. Like he's a really great guitar player in that James Muller vein of jazz.
The other person I loved completely is Ray Beadle.
Oh yeah.
Fuck,
Yeah,
that guy. Wow. What a joy. What a joy and a flow of consciousness that guy has. It's humorous, it's tasty, it's beautiful. I love him.
I feel a bit uncomfortable singling out guitarists because everyone's good at their own thing in their own way. But there is one particular young guitarist that's coming up called Josh Meader, who is mind-blowing. And so I find him to be doing what James Muller sort of did when he was in Sydney before he moved to Adelaide. And I think this guy's very much going to fill that gap and more. So he's one to watch for sure.
Okay, well, I put the call out again to the millions of podcast followers, and took days to get through them all, but I managed to cut it down to 5.
Cut it down to 5 people. Yeah, there was 6, so it took a lot of work.
No, actually, three of the questions from the same person.
It's just one of us in a suit.
You know, I thought that. No.
Where do you get your
I
shoes
started
from?
up another
Yeah.
profile on Facebook.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions. They were on Instagram from
It is totally one of those like Russian bots, isn't it?
yeah, I think so. NTOANIL.
Yep, totally. Yep.
Internal. What is the future of live music, and what kind of opportunities or challenges do you see in the future?
I can answer this.
XFX. What? No.
3:30 naps.
I reckon that the future of live music is streaming. So I think there's going to be a lot of online concerts rather than going out live. And I think that's one of the struggles that we're going to have to face in the next 10 years.
Did you guys see the Coldplay? Because we're all massive Coldplay fans here, obviously.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't mind them.
they don't. They're not
Touring.
They're not touring because they can't justify it, like in
shit.
terms of the greenhouse gas.
Wow.
And they did a huge live from Amman, Jordan, I think it was, like 360 cameras, did a full concert of the new album on YouTube. You could watch it live first, before the album even came out. They did a full concert, and it's just online. And they're like, yep, that's it. That's what you
And
do.
that's it.
Cool if you got the money, man.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
where we're.
Well, I was going to call them and say, hey, look.
You know, I've actually received emails from companies that are investing into the online thing. And, you know, would you like to be one of the featured artists to do an online concert? You know, you get paid $500 every time you do a show and people can tip and stuff.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, but my answer is like, no, I don't want to be a part of that. That's that. If there's a younger generation that want to do that, awesome. But that's really strange for me. And I think there is a great market out there and for the future of all that stuff. But I mean, we can pick and choose whether we want to be a part of it or not. But I think it's, you know, the live music scene in Sydney has changed a hell of a lot. And it's almost like people are going out in the hope to be entertained rather than going out for the art and the cultural side that is music. And it's just a really weird vibe sometimes. Like even at comedy shows, like I've heard some horror stories where comedians get up and do their skit and the people are sort of just sitting there going, it's not entertaining me tonight. No. And
Wow.
maybe that's just the days of streaming and Netflix and instantaneous things.
You see, we're saturated now.
Yeah,
we are
it's too much.
completely saturated with music. I mean, like, who wants to go and see a fucking band? It's shitty. The beer's too expensive. I can't drive home. It's all those things. However, see, for me, my generation, it's really healthy because the people that come to see my shows are gig fit. They've always gone to gigs. Now they're at the age where their children have grown up.
Yeah.
They're not looking after them anymore, and they've got money. They're cashed up.
Yeah.
So for my generation, it's fantastic. It really is.
Well, and a weird thing, having just done this tour with Jimmy, it was actually really nice to notice. I guess I'm middle-aged now anyway, but
That makes me a grand.
but no, it was really, really great to see there was a lot of young people coming to the shows, which, like, you know, you go, oh, yeah. But it's actually like, I feel like it's turning again, because I think it's that thing of what happens is generationally people go, oh, yeah, I can watch it on Netflix and blah, blah, blah. But then they go, oh, no, I want to go out to a rock show and it just be sweaty and I lose my shirt and I don't know what happened to my shoe and, you know, like, and have a good time. Like, it feels weird for us because it's not for us, but for them, they go, let's do some old-fashioned shit and go out to a rock and roll show.
Well, it's interesting.
Like vinyl's coming back. It's that same thing.
It's a niche market. It's always going to be a niche market. It's interesting because I was speaking to somebody about this only yesterday, is that we are all becoming a niche market. Everything is a niche market. But the interesting thing about live music is that most kids that want to play live music want to play stuff that you and I grew up on.
Totally.
Because there's nothing great for a guitar player to listen to these days. And those guys have been influenced by the classic rock people. So the kids want to hear that, what their parents grew up on. And so that's where that market comes from.
That's what I mean. It's like what their parents is to is cool again. They're old enough that they're like, actually,
And it's got substance, you know. I listened to a Supertramp album the other day and I went, fuck, this is amazing.
Do you think that, what do you think of the state of popular music today in terms of, as a guitar player? Is
I struggle with
pretty
it.
dire?
Like, what, are you talking about Kiss FM?
Kiss. Yeah, I mean, Kiss. How do you feel about Kiss cancelling that? No. No, I mean in the sense of like just generally like obviously we were talking about some great guitar players at the beginning, but just into like, and you talking about it, pop music today as a guitar player, you know, and Dan, like, you know, is there a role for us or are we just kind of fit in there to do guitar solos like, you know, Betancourt and Rihanna's band kind of thing?
Most of my work is pop and it's playing with DJs and doing dance music songs and sessions for dance artists and stuff like that. So there is a market for it. It's very, very simplistic parts. It's a lot of skanks and a lot of stuff that have roots in funk and I suppose soul and a little bit of R&B. But yeah, I mean, to tell you the truth, I think Pete's exactly right. It's an oversaturated market. So the music that's on the radio isn't necessarily made with the intention to last decades. It's just to fill that gap that's, you know, a money-making thing that's there one day and gone the next, so another one can go in its place and do all that stuff.
Yeah. It's rubbish.
There, he said it.
Yeah,
That's
said
great.
it.
Thanks, mate. We didn't have to.
It's
hey, ladies and gentlemen, that was Chris
computer-generated
Camzelis that said that.
I don't.
Not us.
I'll stand by it.
I'm with you. Look, as I say, try to listen to the Spotify. Every now and again, I just go, do it, Peter, do it. Are you fucking kidding?
Hey,
We're going to do a
just put
podcast
on
with
radio,
Chris listening to Top
Put
50.
on radio, and this is what it is. There's one
It'll be a
stupid
video one
gimmick
too.
that's going on throughout to catch the listener. There's 10 tons of shit going on around it.
Yeah.
Like it could be a dog's bark. It could be fucking a cat meowing. Seriously, it's really fucking bad.
Shark.
I love Who Let the Dogs Out. What are you
Baby
talking about?
shark.
I said this in one of the
Shit sandwich.
in my podcast before, but there's the
Smells a glove.
TV killed the radio star, and I think now production has killed the songwriter. And I think that's a big thing that's happened.
But then there's like...
No, there's good stuff out there. It's just
like,
not on the radio.
Whether you like it or
Yeah.
not, though, but like...
Yeah, but radio's so unimportant now. Anybody, nobody. I haven't listened to radio for decades.
You don't listen to Kyle Sanders?
If I listen to the radio, it's ABC.
This podcast is taking a turn. But what do you think about like people like, say, Adele cutting through all the, you know, and selling actual physical copies and everyone in the world buying a copy of that album? Whether you like it or not, because we're all playing it
Which
at every
one?
wedding.
Which one?
Adele, like her.
I love
That's
Adele.
you got to
But
remember.
that's what I mean. Like there's
That's
still
10 years old.
Yeah,
No, the latest album's only 3 years old, isn't it?
But I think that's what happens when songwriting matches the production.
And that's what I mean. It's just like
Yeah.
it's still there, but it's just like it's rare when it just like comes through. But when it does, it's so big in the, and I just wonder if there's like I feel like acoustic guitar still has a real relevant place in popular music.
Hey, you know another artist that kills me
we're totally
because I
doing
think
this
she's
podcast.
awesome. I think Sia is awesome.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
But
serious.
get her away from that David Guetta guy, whatever his name is.
Guetta.
Get her away
Yeah.
from that shit.
Guetta out of there.
Because you hear a really good song with a great vocal, and then it does that turn with the side chaining and all that bullshit.
Sia's an incredible singer.
She is, yeah.
Here's
Incredible songwriter
I'm
too.
getting negative now.
And okay, and then what do you think of this song by the Jonas Brothers?
Oh,
I love his guitar solo.
There's a horror gig story right there. I think Chris is right though. There's so much good stuff if you just want to dig around and find it. I think
Yeah.
I know when I was growing up, probably for most of us, there was lots of great obvious guitar on the radio that got kids excited about great guitar playing. I know as a teacher, like the stuff my kids listen to, there's not a lot of cool stuff, and the ones who are really into it will find it, but there's not as much
Yeah, as a parent,
mass coverage.
it's weird. Like my daughter is 10, and so growing up in a musical family, as we're talking about, she'll go and she'll put on like the Beatles or Stevie Wonder, like on vinyl. She loves vinyl, but so we got her like Sia on vinyl or Lord. She was obsessed with, but then she's obsessed with like Lil Nas X, Old Town Road at the same time. Or
you were telling me about this.
yeah, and it's like
See, this would be interesting because having children would expose you to some of that stuff. See, I'm
Well,
not exposed
I've
to it.
always made a point for me of listening to whatever is hip. You know what I mean? Like, because even if I hate it, I want to be able to say why I hate it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really important with music is because if you just go, I hate this, I'm like, I don't want to be my parents when they heard us play in a band and go, this music is terrible when you're getting a real job. And I was
that's
saying,
why, getting back to what you're saying is, I remember when I was a kid and I said to my mum, I'm going to continue to listen to modern music. And that's why I still do the top 50. But as the years go by, I struggle to find anything of anywhere near what I grew up with.
Yeah, but then there's things like that. And that's the thing I find like I don't like Billie Eilish. There's something about that that's kind of like cool. Like I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
I agree.
Like, why would you sing like this? I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, that's really clever.
Yeah.
Because it's that thing we're talking about. It's the polar opposite to everything that's happening. Instead of it like and like all the drops and stuff, it's like
The first thing I listen to is I don't know whether yes, it is me, but the first thing I listen to is, does this person understand what they're doing?
They're singing about,
Do they understand the chords? Do they understand why are you singing that fourth over that note, over that chord?
And the thing that's hard is
what
that
pisses me off because I goes, you're not making music, you're guessing it.
Well, and then what is hard, because we've all been in this world, and like if you're making modern music as like popular, is that nowadays a lot of what the singer sings to isn't what ends up on the radio. So they're like at the mercy of the producer a lot nowadays.
Well, a lot of the session work I get, it's literally a top line that someone's put down at some stage, and then someone else has gone, hey, I think I've got a beat that could match that. Why don't we put them together and send them to people to see what chords come back? And that's the job description. It's like, that's it. Dude.
See, that's guessing.
Yeah. It's
That
literally, it's
kills
like,
me.
how many different versions
Me too.
of this song can you make? I'm like, okay, here's 5.
Yeah, right.
And then the best one wins.
It's literally, it's like which one's going to appeal to a board of people that have no musical bone in their body, but have cash in their wallets and go, would I buy that? No, gone. And it's
over.
We're at the mercy of people that are behind those, jobs that pick and choose. It's not musicians.
It's. I mean, I don't think it's changed that much. I think it's much the same as it's always been.
It's just like there's way more Bay City rollers now.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
It's way dumber.
It's dumber. We've dumbed it down like we've saturated everything. Everything's saturated. I look at advertising music because I've done so much of it, and I look at it and it's like now it's a popular song that gets put to a car ad
And mashed up.
And what doesn't work? And it doesn't work because I could say to you, Do you know what song that is and what car it's selling? And you'll probably go, no.
Yeah. Dio, Holy Diver.
See?
And
What's the car?
I can't remember,
See?
but I'm such a
Holy
Dio
Driver.
fan. For me, it appealed to me. I was
Yeah.
like, that's Dio. When do we hear Dio on TV?
But it
Holy
doesn't
shit.
work.
No, I agree.
He bought the car. Chris has
I
bought it.
totally didn't get why they did it.
See, and you know, and now I'm
You know
talking,
why they did it?
Why?
Because someone in that company loves Dio.
Yeah.
That's
Or,
it.
or it was someone like me who loves a pun and they were like, Holy Driver.
Yeah. That's it.
And then there's like, if you look real close, there's like some like Dio's driving with like a...
Well, a lot of things don't work that we do now. A lot of things like, you go searching for, what did I search for? Keyboards, for computer keyboards the other day. And now all I'm getting is keyboard ads, but I've already bought one. So none of it works. None of the system of advertising works. None of this whole system works.
I always talk about money, but I don't get offered money.
Well, you haven't watched The Secret, have you?
Hey, I just bought some money. Is my phone on? Yeah, okay, great. Free money. Yes.
Dan, what do you got to say about this?
Far out. We're getting
Man.
really sarcastic.
Now we're really being guitarists.
No, before I used to think it was weird to kind of go, oh, music back in the day was this and that, but I don't. You play any of the old songs, they'll still hold their own, whether you're in a club or a live thing. Like everyone will still go bananas over Rock With You or, Message in a Bottle or something. So it's obviously a testament of how good and wholesome music was, like, and how much it's kind of depreciated per decade. I still think that, me personally, like, sometimes it's easier to brush off a lot of things based on the mainstream music, which I think is kind of valid too, because I mean Hendrix was a mainstream pop artist back in the day, wasn't he? And the Beatles and stuff, and it was still wholesome. But I think there's so much good stuff going on that isn't in the mainstream, and I think there'll always be a world for like people to go see live music. And generally speaking, they're probably going to be, mid-30s and above. Like, although I went to that Kendrick Lamar concert, it was, I thought it was great to see young people out at a good artist.
Yeah, Kendrick's
concert.
killer.
Kendrick's great, and then like even like some pop music I don't mind. Like I don't mind Shawn Mendes, and I love this artist. Her name's called H.E.
Oh, she's killer, yeah.
Because she plays every instrument. But I think whether it's a system thing or the music world or just the radio world, in mainstream wise, I'm talking about not indie grassroots stuff. But I think they need a major in still playing an instrument, because there's a producer who I won't name, Sydney Cat, and he's like, man, take this, and I was like, this is ridiculous, this is great. Who play guitar? And he's like, oh, it's a sample pack. And like I'm like, man, it's just not the same. It's not. There's no authenticity of, like I remember even when, like what really got me into guitar was the whole Ben Harper, John Mayer, John Butler trio. Like that was my era, where I guess even mainstream radio then, whether you're talking John Mayer, Your Body's Wonderland, still had guitar solos, still had live instrumentation, and that's actually a really clever song, like lyricism as well.
Dan, but I remember the days we had saxophone solos.
Hey, they're back, just in a nightclub.
But I think things do come back around. But I'd love to hopefully see the day where like people are going out to see live bands that are young. I mean, Gang of Youths are killing it, and there's young people seeing them and stuff. But it's still like a minority compared to people who are just flogging off EDM, and no one really wants to hear that stuff, really, man. And it's not gonna bang in a club or a live bar in 20 years from now, like Rock With You is, or Never Too Much or something like that. But I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like is there going to be cover bands doing David Guetta tunes in
I hope not,
at the Sheaf in 20
As long as they bring the USB stick, they're fine.
I hope not.
It's interesting. It's really interesting. I mean, I love where it's going. I love, for me, it's fantastic. You know, I love that I can create a gig and play with some great players and play what I like to play. And I also have this thing about making sure the audience are part of the involvement. So that having that audience mentality and knowing that the audience is nothing without the band is nothing without the audience, and getting that loop flow thing going. I think that's what brings audiences back. And I think that, you know, it's great in many ways for me. It's my social event too. You know, just going out to a gig is such a social event, and because I don't want to go out and see a band. I know that I've seen it before. Maybe that is an age thing. I don't know. I don't like to think I'm old because I'm not. But it's like I've heard it all before.
I tell you what, I did. I went and saw Roger Waters when he came to Australia, and that was one of the most potent, like, powerful gigs I've seen in my whole life.
Yeah,
and he's 70 something, 74 maybe, and that was like. You know, when like you lose a bit of faith every now and then in music or whatever, and you go and see a gig, whether it be, say, like someone like Kendrick, who's just like virile and in the moment, you're like, he's speaking to the youth. And I went and saw Roger Waters, and I was just like, because I loved Pink Floyd as a kid, and just the show was incredible for one, but just how much intent he still had at that age. And I was like, oh man, I can do it when I'm 100. If he's like, he's angry about the world and do it. And, you know, it's like, less often, but you still, as long as you still get that moment in your life from live music, which we can give to people as the musicians, and you just hope if you give that to one person, one kid, one anybody, then they're going to go home and their life will be better for it. Yeah, and that's probably the coolest thing in our job as guitarists. You know,
I reckon the live seems quite healthy. I don't think. I mean, I've seen venues open and close. And I've seen bands come and go. People say that there's no venues. There's fucking heaps of venues. I reckon there's two problems, and it's really, really simple. And it's that we have musicians that don't give a fuck and don't put on great shows and look like shit. We don't have any rock stars anymore. We don't have people that dress up with fucking stars on their eyes or anything. There's none of that anymore. And I think the other thing is that venue operators don't have any idea. You can walk in. I can walk into any venue and go, well, why did you put the stage there? Why don't you have the lights? Why are your drinks so expensive? I can go, and you've got one person behind the bar, and you've got 10 people deep. Don't you understand that if you put a couple of other guys, you know, it's so simple to me, and I see these venues closing. It's not the government or the council or anybody closing it down. It's people with no fucking idea. So I reckon the live scene's healthy as all buggery. And as a matter of fact, you know, if I really wanted to, I could go out and do 10 gigs a week again, like I used to in the 80s. Mm-hmm. I choose not to. But it's fine. It's doing great. Kids, put a band together. Go and rehearse it up. Put some paint on your face. Wear a cape.
3 chords and the truth.
That's right.
Yeah.
I can't wait for punk to really come back.
Oh, man. I was listening to Bad Brain today.
Yeah. Refused.
Love that stuff.
Love Refused.
Might end it on this one. This is by far the best one.
Favourite drummer?
Yeah, man. Not favourite drummer, but this is by Richard Goldner. And what's your view on a great drummer to work with? What is it about the drummer and their style that makes them great from a guitarist point of view?
Well, I love an 808 because it never does a fill unless you tell it. No.
Dr. Rhythm, man. Boss Dr. Rhythm.
I reckon it's really simple for me. I think it's really, really simple. Stay in time.
Yeah.
The groove, if you know where the time is and you manage to stay in time, your groove will be there. But your groove is you. But it's all too often I'm pulling back or I'm pushing forward to try and find. And I'm not saying that I have great time or I know where the tempo. But, you know, I think that also when part of learning a song is learning the tempo, like knowing where 120 is, not 121 or 122, knowing where it is. You learn that. like you learn pitch. You know how our ears have become like we've almost got perfect pitch now that we know what an E chord sounds like. So I think it's the same with a drummer. If you play with a drummer that you don't have to struggle with, and somebody that understands tempo and time, somebody that can play on the metronome beat, in front of it and behind it.
I think it goes all around in the whole band. Like, the drummer's got to be good, but everyone's got to play, like everyone's got a different sort of feel, you know? So you got to think about that when you're playing with a different drummer. Everyone's got their own sort of swing and you know, you can't be sort of going against them because you're staunch. Do you know what I mean? Like,
totally. Yeah, but I find that if I stay with them, I end up either going with them and slowing. I remember this great story.
I know they're slowing down.
I know this great story of this drummer. I won't mention his name, but they're playing at a gig, and this keyboard player, he was a famous keyboard player. He said, "I just got sick of fighting it all night." And I just went with him, and eventually it slowed down. The drummer stopped, and he said, "What's happening, man?" It's that bad, and I feel like that's
Don't play with him again.
No, but that's what I feel like that could happen at any time with some people.
Yeah, I think
everyone's got a certain feel, and everyone's got to be sympathetic, sort of.
To that, yeah. Like I feel like I play with Dave Hibbard a lot, and I'm always in front of Dave. Dave's always behind me as a bass player. But then if I play with, say, Warren Trout, I can lean back, or whether I'm playing guitar or bass. You know what I mean? And so. And it took me a while when I was young to learn that there's certain drummers that you go, oh, I love this guy because this guy, I can just lean way back and just be that guy that's like a bit stoned on the groove, and that's fun and that's like a vibe. But if I did that with say like Hibbard, he'd go, oh, why is he behind me?
Yeah.
And then he'd slow down.
Yeah.
Because he goes, no, I'm behind you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. In his mind, the drum is behind that instrument. And
do you ever have that conversation? Any of it?
I did years ago. I played with because I was working with Dave for the first few. I'd never really worked, and I was working with this guy Remy Roussan, and Remy we were into voodoo. We were into D'Angelo, so like he would play, and I would try and be like, 5 blocks south, and then I started working with Hibbard, and I was like, whoa, what is this Al Green, Al Jackson kind of drum shit going on? I'd never, and it took me like 3 or 4 gigs, and I got to this point, and I was like, oh man, we keep slowing down. He's like, yeah, but you keep going behind me. And I was like, yeah, but that's what I do. And he goes, yeah, but I play behind you.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, we can do that? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So then
I'd struggle with that, man.
Yeah,
so I can't deal with that.
The drummer's the driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then stylistically it's
so they
sloppier.
Shouldn't, even if they're doing that, like they just should stay there.
Yeah, stay there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the worst thing that a drummer can be is inconsistent and just unsure. I think when they're unsure of who's leading, what's going on, it's just the worst. And that's where that fight is. If a drummer's there, it's like, this is it. This is what I'm going to be all night. And here we are. And there's the pocket. Just like, thank you, God.
And you know what happens?
Then you can all play as a band.
The other thing that happens is when you get paranoid about the drummer doing that, like pulling back, you start starting songs compensating.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And
So
you're always quicker.
I know I'm going to start this quicker because he's going to fucking bring it back.
Bring it back.
Drives me nuts.
I feel dirty. I'm just going to go and have a bath.
Dan?
I was playing with this drummer, Stevie Taylor, once.
Yeah. Best experience of your life.
Well, I definitely agree with Pete once again about timing. And, I grew up listening to hip-hop, I guess, firstly, and that's still my go-to. And a lot of that stuff, whether it's the Jay Dilla stuff or earlier stuff, it just possibly an 8-bar, 12-bar, 16-bar loop on repeat, but it feels good for 5 minutes. And if a drummer can make that groove like Steve Jordan feel, that good doing the same thing or minimal without chopping out, I think firstly it's a testament of good timing, but it's just loaded with feel. Like, I mean, I can listen to Steve Jordan just play the most meat and potatoes groove and it sounds great. Even like Declan Kelly, who I think is a phenomenal drummer. But for my original stuff, I've been using this guy from Sydney named Tully Ryan, and
he's a killing drummer.
But what I love about him, especially for my stuff, is he's got such an identity on his playing. Like he can easily do that obscure, Chris Dave, like playing with different polyrhythms, which isn't really my cup of tea by any means. But it's a stylistic thing where he'll like be hitting different things, and you swear there's like a percussionist as well. And I really like him for my material. But generally, if I'm just playing with a drummer on a cover gig or any other gig, if they can stay in time and make whatever they're doing, like in the verse, feel groovy as hell and feel even better the second verse when it comes around, I think it's great. And again, I reference like the Questloves and the Steve Jordans, who are just so simple but so just in it, which I guess when you're so solid, when it comes to doing like a little tasty fill or some kind of different thing with dynamics, or for a guitarist doing a little tasty lick, but he's held out for so long and just made it feel good, it makes it extra special. But yeah.
Yeah, look, I remember many years ago when I was a kid, we found out that guitar was a rhythm instrument, and so we are totally connected to it. I think my closest instrument on stage is the drums. Yeah. And if the drummer's not hearing me and if I'm not grooving with the drummer, the gig's shit. It's just, and I don't mean it's all shit. I mean, it's not comfortable. And I'll come home and then have to play for another 2 hours by myself so that I can get some joy out of it.
Isn't it funny? Like you when you go away from a gig tired, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And when you go away from a gig pumped,
you want to go and do it again.
Yeah. It's like it wasn't an effort.
That's it.
Yeah. There's something about drummers and the hats. The hi-hats for me, that's where guitarists live. Like we live in the hats, I reckon. So if the hats are sloppy, nothing really works. She can have a metronome going on and kick and snare, but what happens in between on those hats dictates the groove. That's what I reckon. So, yeah.
What do you reckon about that, Stevie? From a drummer's perspective.
Fucking awesome. I'd hire all of yous.
Listen to Stevie's new band.
Yes.
7 guitars and a drum.
I love it. Speaking of that, Jim Kelly had a gig called the Guitarchestra, and it was 10 guitar players. And at one stage in one of the songs, they had a pedal solo where everybody stopped playing and guys would just go. And just turn pedals on and off for a whole solo. It was just fantastic.
That's really cool. Matt, before I close it out, you got anything you want to say, add?
I think we've covered a lot of stuff. This has been so fun. It's been cool.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
Honestly, I'm really humbled to be amongst everyone here. I think there's some amazing talent and years of experience and wisdom in this room and online. And I just want to say thank you for having me here today.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
It's been really good. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Stevie.
No worries, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and agreeing to do this. And,
Chris, have you got anything else to say?
No.
Quick, Chris, stop now.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I don't know what else to say. I'm just privileged to have
That was
been able to hang out with you. It was cool.
that was nearly
4 hours.
Nearly 4
Close
hours.
to 4 hours. Yeah.
Marathon.
Yeah.
How are you going to edit that?
4-part series.
Yeah.
What?
He's going to edit it like all my stuff into one podcast, all of Chris's into one podcast, all of Mark's into one.
But the difference, Chris is going to be a 3-minute podcast.
Yeah.
I'll be like,
No.
No. All right, guys. Thanks so much. And hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Good on you. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Later, boys. Catch you later.
It seems to me that you have other plans. You try to make me be some other man. Oh no. Oh. Why should I change? I just don't understand. I won't go hiding my face in the sand. Oh no. Oh. You've got to take me just for who I am. Take a little bit of your own advice. You're talking at me and you're not thinking twice. The day will come where we'll pay the price. No more, no more. A little loving's what I needed from you. Just think of all the things we planned to do. Oh no. Why can't you see what you have done to me? No turning back to